Hey guys, my name is Tal and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, this channel is all about low-income affordable housing. I pretty much do videos going over the entire process, and I do also answer questions that applicants may have while they're in the process, as well as answer questions for anyone that's new to the program and just want to learn more about it. So today I will be doing the answers to the questions that were asked in my that was typed in my previous video. So I'll be going through, and anyone that adhere to the one sentence rule, I'll be responding to those questions. I hope you find this information helpful. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, share this information with a friend if you found it beneficial. If there's any questions that I want to think through some more, I'll just leave a comment to say email me. If anyone did not adhere to the one sentence rule, I apologize, but your question may be skipped. I'm trying to go through this as fast as possible. Also, pardon any bleepers or whatever they call them that I may have, but let's get into it. Okay. So the first question is, please explain why the application process is lengthy for a re-rental and you submit requested documents a month ago. Okay, so what I want you guys to keep in mind is that every developer is different, right? The affordable housing process is not an overnight process. It do takes a couple weeks to get through the entire process. As far as re-rentals are that process is typically faster than a lottery process, but again, it really depends on the developer, how much application they're reviewing, if they're going off the wait list, which for re-rentals they will be going off the wait list. So when you're reaching out to applicants from a wait list, like I've had wait lists with over 100,000 people, and oftentimes, a lot of those people, their information change, or no longer interested, and a lot of reasons. So what you have to do, like different developers do it differently, as I mentioned, but I typically send out an email blast or reach out to 100 people at a time, and there's a timeline that you have to wait for each person to respond. However, should a re-rental typically take months? Not necessarily. When I did my re-rentals, my process was pretty quick, but it really just depends on the developer. So I hope that answered your question. Unfortunately, there's no specific answer to that. It is an affordable housing process, and there's different stages, and those stages may take a while for the agent to review and go through. So the next question, once submitted documents, how long does it take to get contacted back? Again, it's no standard timeline, right? But once you submit documents, it really depends on the stage that you're in. Like if you submit it for a compliance review, it could typically, sometimes it could take a few days, sometimes it may take a few weeks. So that's something, again, that's up in the air. What I do advise is that, the timeline should be reasonable. Like if you submit your documents, in my mind, a reasonable time to hear back is at least within 6 weeks. And that's me going to the maximum time in my mind. However, there's no standard amount of time that they have to contact you by. However, their response time must be reasonable, or if it's not reasonable, the developer is going to have to justify that with the agency. But what my recommendation is, just follow up with them. As I always say in my videos, send them an email and put on the read receipt on the email. Do your part, do your due diligence to show that you reached out. If they don't respond to your email, give them a call. And if they don't answer the call, send them an email. Say, you attempted to reach them by phone in addition to your email sent on this date, that date, and that date, right? And I would say if you don't hear back within 6 weeks, at that point, contact the agency. Like if this is a project by HDC or HPD or HDC, contact them with your supporting information and see what they could do for you. Sometimes, unfortunately, there's no sense of urgency, and that bothers me, because when I did lotteries, like I'm always cognizant of like people waiting and all of that, but everyone is different, and sometimes the agents are doing 30, 40 different files, so it really depends. But I'll say if you don't hear back within 6 weeks, submit your evidence to the agency and say, hey, I've been trying to reach this developer, to no avail. But that's last case scenario, because I still do, I'm still on the developer side, but I'm just being, when I say I'm on the developer side, I'm still in this industry. But I think 6 weeks is a reasonable time. And, if you don't hear back, like, don't go send the agency an email if it's been a week or 2 weeks, because that's not like justifiable to say, okay, that's beyond, if that's not like an unreasonable time. So I would say 6 weeks and beyond is somewhat unreasonable for them not to correspond with you at all. If they have been corresponding with you, that's different. But if they're not responding whatsoever, then next step, I would say reach out to the agency. Okay. I lived in a neighborhood for 5 years, moved to another neighborhood, and has been living there for 2 years. I noticed I still get a community board preference in my own neighborhood. How does the CB preference work when filling out application on Housing Connect? So if the CB is in reference to your current location. So if you moved from where you had a preference for, that preference will no longer be valid unless you have some justification. Say, for example, there was a fire or something life-changing happened and you had to move. Sometimes you could justify it, but typically, if you move from the location that you have the CB, you're no longer valid for that CB. So I hope that answers that question. When applying, I base my income on last year's 2020 income. When I'm selected, I have to submit documents. Would they be looking at last year's income for eligibility? Great question, Cindy. And this is answered in my previous video, but this is a general question, so I'm going to answer. So when I base my income on, okay. So if you're on the application, right? If you're on the new Housing Connect, if you're on 2.0, remember, it's different from the old Housing Connect. So in 2.0, you could update your information in real time, right? So meaning that if you last year, if you earned $20,000, for example, but this year you're earning $25,000, you could reflect your new income on the Housing Connect 2.0. So it's not like before where you just had to wait. Once you enter it, you couldn't change it, right? With the new platform, you can change it. However, say you entered the 2020 information, you already applied to a developer and that lottery closed, then they're gonna have your old information, right? But you should still definitely update your profile. I hope that answers it. As far as your eligibility, so the only way your previous income could factor in your eligibility is if it exceeds the amount that you're applying for. Say, for example, you're applying for an income range that's $20,000 to $30,000, right? $30,000 being the maximum, but last year you earned $50,000. You would have to somewhat justify the decrease in your income, particularly if you are employed by the same employer. It says like, okay, how did you jump from 50 to now saying you're earning 20, for example. If you're now saying 2021, I'm earning 20,000, but 2020, you earned 50,000. You'll have to justify that because they do look at your tax return. And if your tax return exceeds the current bracket, then typically you're deemed over income, but they do ask you for clarification. Right now with the pandemic, it could mean multiple things. It could mean that your job salary decreased, or it could mean that you lost your job and you found a new employment, but the salary is not the same. So this year, well, since the pandemic, there's a little gray area with that as a result of, all the hardship or change in employment that a lot of people face during the pandemic. But the thing why we assess this, because people do reduce their income to make themselves eligible for the program. I've seen that so many times. So that's the only way it could really be a factor. I hope that clarified your question. Okay, how long after being told that you are approved for an apartment do you get to view the property? This varies. Again, some developers let you, once they determine what it appears that you may be eligible for, some developers have you view the units before. Like when I did lotteries, once I determined eligibility, I have the applicants view the unit, because I'm going to put the actual unit on their application on their documents before submitting it to the agency. But some developers wait till after you're approved. There's no standard timeline. I did a previous video on this where I advised that some developer will have you come in the same day of the lease signing to view the unit, right? Some will arrange with you to come prior to that to view the unit. So there's no set timeline. The bottom line is that you have to view the unit before you sign the lease. And I told you guys in a previous video, never sign a lease for a unit that you have not seen. I don't care if it's a new building. My recommendation, never sign anything for a unit that you have not seen, no matter what they describe to you, no matter how many bedrooms they told you. Make sure you see it before. Okay. I hope that answered that. How is student income for a summer internship counted for the purpose of income eligibility? Is it treated like unemployment benefits as if it were permanent, or is it not counted since there is no expectation of that income counting in the future? So this one is tricky because it depends on a lot of different factors. How old is the student? It depends on the information regarding the internship. Is it something that you do every single year? Or is this a one-off internship? So this is the open question. So the person that wrote this, send me an email and I will clarify more with you, because more information will be needed in order for me to answer this question correctly. But is it treated as unemployment? I wouldn't necessarily say that, because remember, for unemployment, they count the full amount of time. Like they still count the 12-month period for unemployment. So it really, email me and I will go over this with you to get more information from you so I could better answer this question as it applies to you. Okay. Hello. So I was wondering if the application number is also your log number, or are there two separate things? So yes, it's separate, and I talked about this in a previous video. So your log number is complete. The application number is just your application ID. So once you apply for any developer, you instantly get the application number, but the log number, that is what's used for the selection. So yes, that's two different things. Okay, is there a delay in application processing? I've been waiting to hear from an apartment for at least 3 years now. 3 years. Okay, so that I can't imagine there being a delay that will cause someone not to respond for 3 years. So what likely happened in that scenario is that perhaps your application is either waitlisted or you were deemed ineligible and you may have missed some correspondence that they sent out to you. But 3 years, certainly not. A determination was made on the application already. There's no way an application status could be undetermined for the said amount of time. Okay, I turned in all my paperwork and they showed me an apartment, but said I had to wait 2 weeks for compliance and the other agency to approve it. Does that basically mean that I have it? Okay, I think I actually answered this question via the comment response. So, oh, my battery. As I said in the comment, like in all my years of doing this, which is a very long time, it's rarely have I seen someone file that went to the agency and did not get approved. I've seen it before, maybe 3 or so times, less than 5 times. So typically once compliance review the file, because like the leasing person reviews it, the compliance team reviews it. So once it gets to the agency, the likelihood of the file being approved is, you know, very high. There may be occasion where additional documents are needed or additional clarifications are needed, but rarely have I ever seen a file being rejected once it gets to the agency, but it can happen. There can also be scenarios where they incorrectly process your log number and there was another log number that's lower than yours that should get the unit before you. But I don't think you should worry. I think you'll be fine. What is for you is going to be for you. So I'll say just, you know, think positive and trust that everything will work out in your favor. Okay. This full-time student, I'm a single mom. Okay, so for when it pertains to full-time student, like there's a lot of factors. So where I'll start from, I'm reading Jenny's comment. I'm a single mom, full-time graduate student. Will I qualify? Yes, you may qualify, but you have to meet one of the 5 exemptions. So I would say Google low-income housing tax credit student status exemptions. Review those exemptions and see if you meet any of those. And if you do, then yes, you may qualify. But with student questions, more information is always needed. It's not just because, again, there's a lot of factors that determine the eligibility, particularly for full-time students. Okay. All right. I finally receive a log number. What's next? What should I do on my end to prepare? Okay, so I made a lot of videos about this, so you could definitely reference the videos. But once you receive your log number, now you just need to check your emails or to check the portal to see if you're contacted. The selection is random. As far as preparing, I would say go through my video that lists the documents that's typically required. You can just get a sense of what's needed. You don't necessarily have to start having them because everything you need, everything that they're gonna request has to be current, but just have an idea. You know, I'll say just make sure you think about like, okay, if you have, you know, when you need to prepare, if you're a person that has a whole bunch of those Cash App or Money Gel and all of that, you may have to do a little homework there to go through your account to see if you have any recurring deposit, and you may just want to get a sense of what those were. But don't go too crazy because you don't know when they're going to contact you. You don't know the bank statement. I'll just say review the list of documents that's needed to get an idea of what you will need. So once they contact you, you already know the documents and you could quickly gather them. Okay. I may not get through all of these, but I'm going to go through as many as possible. I think there's like 52. I finally received an update on the website that all units are filled. My application was not reached for processing after I waited for many months and submitted everything. So what is the next step? Will I be put on a wait list or should I just keep trying? I always say apply to more properties. Don't just rely on a wait list. I've had wait lists for years. I've had people on wait lists for over 6 years. So definitely, you know, yes, if you weren't deemed ineligible, you'll be placed on the wait list. But you don't want to sit waiting 2 years to be contacted. You should always be applying to as many lotteries as possible, so long as you qualify, so long as the building is in an area that you actually want to live. So don't just apply to one and that's it. You should definitely apply to multiple lotteries. So don't sit and wait to be contacted, because that you don't know when they'll contact you. Once all the units are filled, remember, a unit can only become available if someone moves out. And typically for new developments, people that's moving in, the leases are 12 and 24 months. So the probability of someone instantly moving out is slim to none. Typically, new development don't really see turnovers until like 3-4 years in, when that person is chasing another building. So no unit is gonna come available unless someone moves out. So just keep that in mind and just keep going, keep applying. If they end up reaching out to you, great. Okay. What do you do when you receive multiple documents requests on the same Housing Connect property when you already submitted them? That's unusual, especially that you're using the portal. I'll just say, try to reach out to them and say, hey, I've been receiving multiple inquiries. I already submitted on this date. Please confirm if this information is still needed. I'll just reach out to qualify. It may be a glitch in the system or something. If I accepted an apartment, can I still apply for other affordable housing to get something more suitable for me down the line? Yes, you absolutely can. There's no limitation. Oh my God, I turned off the fan because I didn't want my hair to be blowing, but now I'm like dying. But never mind. I love you guys, so I'll deal with the heat as I go through this. Sorry, let's get back to the question. I accepted an apartment. Can I still apply for other affordable housing? Yes, you absolutely can. I noticed you said like to get something more suitable for me down the line. Yes, you absolutely can. However, I always preach this. Before you accept an apartment, make sure you're happy with it. Don't just take one because you're getting one, because these are the things that's going to happen. You're always going to look for the next one, and you don't even see yourself there long term. So 12 or 24 months from now, you're looking to move. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a fan of moving. That's a hassle, and it could be a financial hardship. So I always say it's so important, the unit that you select. So it's great to get accepted, but make sure you can see yourself there. But to answer your question, yes, you could apply for other lotteries. How do you find previous buildings that participated in a housing lottery to join their wait list? So typically, if a building is on Housing Connect, like sometimes, and they're no longer on, sometimes, not all the time, you just have to cut. Well, let me better answer this. How to find previous building that participated in the housing lottery and join their wait list. I would say contact the buildings directly. Oftentimes their wait list is closed and they're no longer accepting any applicants, because you have to remember, sometimes like thousands of people apply for these properties, right? So oftentimes that wait list is so extensive that they're not even adding anyone else to the wait list. They only reopen the wait list when they exhaust the list that they currently have after the lottery. Okay, so I'm gonna do 2 more and then I'll do a part 2 next time. Let me see. For tax documents that's required, what if you were claimed as a dependent that year prior? Do you submit that person tax forms? No, don't submit anything they don't ask for. So only if they ask you for that, which is unlikely, but don't submit anything that you're not asked for. If your log number is, for example, 10,000 and you have CB preference and someone in the general log has 1,000, CB goes first, so community board is processed first. So you will get priority over that, so long as the CB percentage is not filled. I believe the CB percentage is 5% of the total units. Does credit matter for affordable housing? Do you get kicked out if you start making more? Yes, credit matters, but right now it's very, like for the past few years, it's very hard to reject someone for credit. So credit matters, but it's not a significant factor unless you're in extensive debt and you have just demonstrated to be highly irresponsible and you have significant, debt on your credit. Like, it's very hard to reject someone for credit. Do you get kicked out if you start making more? No, no one knows. This is a question people always ask. No, you do not. It's a loss for the landlord, but it's a benefit for the applicant, for the resident. The goal is for you to make more income and increase the quality of your life. If your income decreases for the next recertification, does your rent decrease? No, it does not. And this is in reference to low-income housing tax credit program, which is different from Section 8, which I always say. So once you move in a development, it doesn't matter if your income increase or decrease. The rent is the rent, and if it's a rent stabilized building, the increase for that building is based on the rent guidelines board. So whatever the rent is, it's not gonna change based on your income. So always keep that in mind. Okay, I'm gonna do 2 more. I know I said that before. All right, this is not one question, so I'm gonna skip that one. Will I qualify for an apartment if I receive a City FEP voucher? Yes, you can qualify for an apartment if you receive a City FEP voucher. It depends how much your voucher is, based on the portion of your voucher. If you need support in income, your income have to, if the voucher is not enough to cover the total rent, then you have to meet the income criteria. Okay. All right, guys. Okay, so I'm not gonna do any more today. For the ones that I did not do, I'll respond via the comment. I hope these answers were helpful. I'm sorry if I rushed through it, and I hope that you guys are able to understand me. Thank you always for watching. I hope that you guys can learn from this Q&A, and I hope to do more. If you have any questions, just leave them on this video, and I'll also answer the remaining comments on that video. Again, what is for you guys will be for you. Stay encouraged. Watch my previous video, as a lot of these questions were answered in my previous video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, share this information with a friend, and if you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up. And let me know that, Tal, this really helped me. Let me know in the comment. I'm looking forward to your feedback. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in my next video.